with us Tyler, who's our director of ops. He also oversees all the cultivation post-harvest processes. We have Edgar Gonzalez, who's our new lab director. He has a wealth of information and over 10 years in the space in different states as well. We also have Angie Hamilton with us. She ran dispensary ops, and she's also now our sales director, and she'll dive into both of those here shortly. But who we are is a big picture. We are certified cultivators. We are a level 1 operation of cultivation and also processing lab. We are based out of Dayton, Ohio, right down the street from Wright Pat Air Force Museum. All indoor facility. We run LED lights. A 3rd generation family business. Our home base originally served as an auto parts storage unit. Zach Weprin's dad, who was part of this startup, used to run the Muffler Brothers and used this facility for all types of different things in the past. We serve the local area. In turn, the present day, the facility has been a retrofitted inline equipment space designed for high quality cannabis production. The certified family is true beholden for the opportunity to connect medicine and community through the medical operations. We're moving here, pushing through the medical industry forward. So yeah, what an exciting time it is, Kevin, to be here. I know a couple of days ago, we finally got the go ahead to have the privilege to vote on recreational here in Ohio. I couldn't be more excited to sit down and run through all the opportunities that we have in the field right now, and what they may look like when rec actually does hit us. So yeah, once again, thanks for having us on, and excited to run through it with you. I'm gonna pass the torch here. I believe we'll go through, so we'll go through cultivation operations, processing operations, kitchen operations, dispensary operations. And then we'll get into a lot of the unseen stuff. So HR, marketing, a lot of the things that you may not hear about, not the glorified, growing the cannabis, but all the little things that make this operation work.
And yeah, really quickly, just quick housekeeping right before we jump over to Tyler to start and to instruct everyone here on the team. We'll have Q&A in between every kind of section. Just again, questions will be at top of mind. You might forget them by the end of the seminar. So what you can do as well is type them into the chat. Also, we can categorize them there. We all know how it is. Pops in your head and pops out of your mind just as fast. So, but we will break between every major agenda item to just be able to ask specific questions about that area focus for you all.
Awesome. All right, we'll let Tyler take it away.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome today. My name is Tyler Snell. I'm the Director of Operations here at Certified Cultivators. I manage our cultivation and post-harvest operations. Currently, I'm leading a team of about 50 people spread across 4 different departments between cultivation, irrigation, IPM, post-harvest, and vegetation. I started my journey in this cannabis career. I was growing before cannabis actually had came to Ohio. So, I've got 13 years of cultivation experience currently with cannabis. But I did start in a dispensary, kind of similar to Angie, as Kevin was talking about as we kicked off this meeting. I spent 2 years in a dispensary, starting as a bud tender, and was able to work my way up into an inventory specialist, kind of taking care of the back of the house, a lot of the deliveries that were coming in and getting things on the shelves for the patients. I was a lead on that team as well. So just kind of had a lot of regulars that had came to me at the dispensary, really got comfortable with a lot of our patients, was able to build a good team and a good culture at that dispensary, and really felt like we were doing a good job at taking care of our patients, and had the opportunity to apply for the general manager position. And luckily enough, got promoted to general manager and kind of worked my way through that for about another year, and just really decided it was time for a career change for me. I got into the dispensary world really as a foot in the door for the industry in Ohio. And I feel like I kind of got my experience and was able to network there through the retail side of things, and met a few people. Had reached out to Zach at Certified Cultivators to kind of see if there were any open positions. And I made a decision to make a high level career change. Started kind of back at the bottom here at Certified as an irrigation tech. We had some changes in the building kind of at the time that allowed me to kind of lead that team and lead the room of irrigation for a little while. build a really solid team between what is now myself, my irrigation manager now, and my cultivation manager now. At the time, we all work together and just build a team and a culture that we're proud of. But it was nice, to be able to see where you can get your foot in the door and able to be able to start in the dispensary and work my way into cultivation, which was the original plan, and then able to work myself out of irrigation and continue to build that team, continue to lead the team into now what is the director of operations. It started for just cultivation for me at first. And then just with a little bit of time, we had some extra other changes in the building that led to me also directing our post-harvest department. So, like I said, now I'm kind of leading a 50-member team, just across cultivation, irrigation, IPM, post-harvest, and vegetation. We currently have about 10,000 plants, plus or minus maybe 1,000 at a time, just depending on what we have going on, in about a 23,000 square foot space. I believe it's about 17,000 square foot table space, pretty close to that. We've got a pretty big facility and there's a lot of moving parts every day. And kind of the next part that you're getting ready to see is the breakdown of our departments, kind of the breakdown of what it entails to make this operation happen and how many people it takes. So I'll give you 1 second here. All right, so this is our cultivation organization chart. You can kind of see it breaks down under the umbrella for me and the director of operations. We have our cultivation manager, our cultivation compliance and testing manager, post-harvest manager, irrigation IPM manager, and our vegetation manager. And we have positions under each one of those departments. As you can see in a few of these departments, we have what's called a coordinator role. It's really going to depend on how big that department is, what is the responsibility of that department, and how many moving pieces are to that, and how much we really need to kind of, make sure everybody is working well together and on task to meet production goals and standards. For the cultivation manager, he really oversees our weekly and daily cultivation tasks, which really consists of harvest, transplants, defoliation, setting trellis, really inspecting the plants and environments, making sure that we're on point for the parameters that we're setting, whether it be light intensity, our CO2 levels, our environments such as our temperature and humidity, really monitoring that VPD, vapor pressure deficit, just to make sure that we're in the sweet spot for where we're trying to grow with our LED rooms. But yeah, he's responsible for like I said, our weekly and daily tasks, and the cultivation coordinator really works with him to schedule out the team, to schedule out the plan for the week, and then make sure that we can implement and be on schedule and on task for the rest of the department. Our compliance manager is responsible for reporting the accurate data for harvests, transplants, our plant movements, and our kills to metric. As Kevin mentioned earlier, we are a seed to sale tracking system. Everything in Ohio, the moment that you plant a seed or plant a clone, it begins being tracked through metric at the time, and then all the way through from harvest to cure, and even as it makes its way to the dispensary for the patients. So he's responsible for kind of reporting all the data for that, for the movement of everything. He also coordinates all the testing in each department for each facility, or for the entire facility. So basically he goes around, and 3 days a week we have testing generally, to where each department's submitting a few different items out for testing. So that way we can get back whether it's cannabinoid potency, terpene potency, microbial testing, whether it's potency for the lab, for the kitchen. He coordinates all that, and he coordinates the schedule for each department lead or manager. For post-harvest manager, they're responsible for planning and the hanging of harvest in each dry room, monitoring the moisture content of our bud before we're bucking or before we're sending it to the trim room. After we get everything kind of bucked down into bags, she then takes it into our cure room and burps it every day on schedule until we're at the consistent moisture that we're looking for each product. We'll then take it, we'll send it to the trim room. We'll start trimming everything down and getting it ready to be packaged and sent out to the dispensaries. She has a pretty big team that she manages every day. There is about 25 people on that team, roughly, plus or minus, just depending on kind of where we're at for production. At kind of expecting to, as we ramp into recreational here for this department, that our trim team and our post-harvest team will become quite a bit larger. I'm going to say that that's probably one of our departments that will double in size as we get to there. Our irrigation IPM manager is really responsible for the mixing and delivering of nutrients throughout the building. As I said earlier, we manage about 10,000 plants in this building, so it is a lot to keep up with. We have a central irrigation room that can feed any room in the building. We have a batch mixer and an inline mixer, which makes different batches of different nutrient recipes depending on what we're trying to do for each cycle of each room. But not only does he handle the nutrients and the recipes, he also monitors the water content and the runoff in each cultivation room. So we're kind of constantly monitoring our plants in each room, making sure that they're getting consistent feed, getting proper levels of water, making sure that none of their parameters are out of whack, whether it's the salt content in the root zone or whether it's the pH balance in the root zone. He also has kind of planned out and implemented our IPM program. We have a very strict integrated pest management program that allows us to be one of the cleaner facilities in the state. We haven't had a bug or a pest issue or powder mildew, any pathogens in a long time, really just thanks to our strict IPM program. We spray up to about day 9 or 10 with pesticides. After day 9 or 10, we switch into beneficial bugs and putting out different bugs in the canopy to kind of fight off any aphids, thrips, spider mites, if there were any, fungus gnats. We implement nematodes into soil drenches to make sure that if there are any larvae living in our soil, that the nematodes can kind of nip that in the bud for us. So we don't have any flying gnats flying around. If you walk into a lot of facilities, we all have hanging pest traps. It's hard to find one in our building that's not a bug that we didn't put there. Our vegetation manager, they're responsible for the veg room, the mom, and the cure or the clone room. I'm sorry. But they manage the rotation and scheduling of our clone cuts and our transplants. It's kind of weekly. So every week we cut about 1,200 clones, give us a little bit of buffer room for what we're going to put into the veg room each week for transplant. We do have a veg room, a mother room, and a clone room. And then on top of that, we have 9 production rooms for flower and 4 R&D rooms, making it a total of 13 rooms for flower that we have to kind of manage and stay on top of the schedule for. So, as you can see here, we have about 50 positions available in cultivation and post-harvest. We have cultivation managers, cultivation coordinators. We have 5 room leads for cultivation and 6 technicians. We only have 1 person right now in compliance and testing. We have about 25 people total in post-harvest, including the manager, the coordinator. We have a bucking lead, a processing lead, a trim lead, and the post-harvest technicians. So bucking is basically, taking the flower down after it's dried and hung, and we'll buck it down into turkey bags, getting ready to go into the cure room and getting ready for trim. The processing lead will take a lot of our smalls, or we'll take a lot of our shake and trim and get it ready for the lab. It'll run our smalls through an easy trimmer machine. Anything that's not getting hand trimmed at the time will run through the processing lead. And then the trim lead kind of manages the 10 or 15 or so people in the trim room every day who are hand trimming all of our flower. And it's most of the flower that you see going out into your half-ounce bags, your select jars, our 2.83s. A lot of that is hand trimmed and coming out of the trim room. So there's a lot of positions here. We have 5 to 6 people in irrigation IPM. We have 7 people in vegetation. And I expect all these positions to kind of expand as we get closer to rec. As we get into rec and as we expand our facility, most likely we'll expand most of these positions by 150 to 175%. We'll add cultivation managers, we'll add coordinators as we need to or as we see fit. We'll add a lot of technicians to this team. So as we get closer to rec, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in this field and a lot of opportunity in this industry for anybody that's looking to get into it. Do we have any questions?
Awesome, and I really appreciate this, that org chart itself. We maybe want to jump back to that slide, and I'll check the chat here to see if we have any questions here. And again, anybody have any questions, please go ahead and you can write it in the chat as well. If you're just on a phone or anything like that, you can go ahead and raise your hand, do that raise hand option. I'll go ahead and give you a quick unmute. But yeah, Todd, if you could just go back to the organizational chart, real quick slide. I think it's always just such a, as we were talking earlier before everyone jumped on, even in, myself has not gotten to see the deep org chart on all of these, on all the different departments. And especially as you're talking about the director, as a director of operations and looking at that, it really starts to open up, an understanding of what it really takes to, cultivate a plant. You said, how many plants are you overseeing at this time? You said it was a 10,000?
Roughly about 10,000 at a time. Yes. 10,000
at a time. And is that normal?
Yes. I would say, we have about 6,000 or so, 6,000 to 7,000 in flower at any given time. In the veg room, we have about 2,100 to 2,500 plants at any given time, and then roughly about 3,600 clones at a time.
All right, great. Can you just give a quick information, just understanding, explanation of those three different stages that we have from, clones, veg to flower, and then obviously harvest, so people understand those terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the clone room, basically we start with a mother plant. We veg out a plant for about 3 to 4 months. So vegetation is the process before flower. It's going to be an 18-6 light cycle for us. So 18 hours on, 6 hours off for the 24 hours for the day. Basically what we are doing then is we are growing a mother plant up in our cycle to hit our production schedules. And then this mother plant is roughly 3 to 4 months old. It can give us anywhere between, let's say, 300 to 400 good cuts at a time is kind of what we're looking for. Some plants may be able to give us up to 500 or 600 clone cuts. Some may be a little bit less, just depending on their growth or how vigorous they are. But we'll then take cuttings from each mother plant, and then we will put them into the clone room into cloning plugs. So, you can use rock wool, you can use peat plugs, there's cocoa-based plugs. We use basically what is called a rapid rooter, or similar to a rapid rooter. It's a peat-based plug that we then stick each cut into. We get roots in anywhere from about 7 to 10 days. They're generally in the clone room for about 15 to 16 days, and then we roll them out into our vegetation room. And we will transplant anywhere from 600 up to 780 plants roughly for a vegetation cycle. And that will basically be the plants that are getting ready to veg for an upcoming flower room. So we'll plant, let's just call it 700 plants at a time. They'll go into our veg room for roughly 20 days under pretty intense LED lighting. We aim for about 83 degrees and 70 humidity in that room. You want it to kind of be like almost like an Amazon rainforest. It's pretty hot and humid some days, but that's what the plants like. It's how they get the best growth underneath LED lights. But like I said, we spend about 20 days in the veg room in the veg cycle, and then we will actually roll out those plants or transplant those plants to our flower rooms, where we have, as I said before, 9 production rooms, 4 R&D rooms or strain rooms, leading for 13 flower rooms. So we will roll out, anywhere between 560 up to 700 plants into flower. We kind of select the best plants that we have in our bedroom, and then we will leave some of them behind, and we'll actually kill them if they just didn't make the cut, or call them, as we call it. But yeah, we roll up about 700 plants into flower at a time. We run a 62-day flower cycle. We have 9 production rooms, so we run it on a 9-week cycle. We do harvest every Monday. We clean our room every Tuesday, and then we refill or transplant every Wednesday. So it is a cycle. It's a process. Team pretty much knows what they're doing every day when they come in, whether it's a Monday and it's harvest, Tuesday's cleaning day, Wednesday's a refill, and then the rest of the week kind of fitting in defoliation and trellis tasks. But yeah, hopefully that covers most of it for the 3 terms that you're looking for.
Tyler, I have a question. This is Austin here from CSE. Could you give us an example on how, maybe someone from your team, either yourself or somebody else, what's the progression of these positions here? Like what can someone expect, starting off maybe in the trim room, and then where have you seen people kind of take their careers and be promoted, and what direction does that go in, and what kind of salaries do you see at each jump?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can just start as like a cultivation tech, it's where I started really as an irrigation tech or cultivation tech. Came into the building. It does start basically about $15 an hour as a cultivation tech. We do have a lot of positions that quickly come out of that technician role. So if you got a good work ethic, good attitude, you're good at working with a team, you show that you're able to train people, lead somebody, it's pretty easily to move from a technician role into a lead role. So like myself, I moved from a technician to a lead of irrigation, and then eventually moved to the irrigation manager. And for my cultivation manager and even my IPM irrigation manager right now, they both started as techs with me as well. We were all 3 working in the irrigation room. And then from the irrigation room, Nate had actually became a cultivation lead, and then a cultivation manager. And then he has then since taken, we had our guy who's our cultivation coordinator right now. He worked as a post-harvest technician. He wanted to get into cultivation, so he worked really hard in post-harvest. We had promoted him up from the bottom into cultivation. He continued to work really hard and to show a lot of good work ethic, a lot of good capabilities, and he quickly became a room lead. And then a couple months later, we actually made him our cultivation coordinator, just seeing how he was able to coach and guide people I guess the biggest thing I'll say is, we generally don't hire from outside. Most positions that we promote for, we give people the opportunity, generally do start at the bottom. We want people to kind of come in and show that they're going to be a part of this team and that they want to be here, that this is kind of a passion for them. A lot of us are very passionate. There are days where we spend 10, 11 hours together. There are days when we're out in 7 too, so it's not always work, but you want to know that you can kind of lean on the person next to you. So for us, the best mentality for us is just kind of see who's the next available, who we can give an opportunity to. And, we'd really like for people to start at the bottom with us and kind of promote from within.
So for that example you gave us, how many years did it take for him to get to that lead role? And then you don't have to tell us exactly how much money he makes, but what's the salary range that you see for like that director position? And then how many years did it take him to get there?
So like for us, we still are very much a startup. So it's pretty quick in some cases. I was able to move into my director of operations role in about a year, a little bit over a year. Nate was able to move in his cultivation manager role in about 6 months. Adam for IPM irrigation was about a year. I would say our vegetation manager was close to 2 years to work into his role. And then post-harvest manager was about a year to work into her role as well. Luckily, we've kind of been in a position, like I said, to kind of be this startup and to continue to create positions every day. I would say salary range from anywhere from, I mentioned the cultivation techs is 15 an hour. Some people do make a little bit more than that, just depending on how long you've been here or kind of the work that you're putting in. What are your responsibilities every day? But ranging anywhere from, let's say, 40,000 up to 75, 80,000 at max for most people. Do you have any other questions?
I see some in the chat here.
Let me pull it up. Give me a second.
Briggs, are you done with your question? Are you good there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Say, Kevin, you want to facilitate the next question?
Yep. So does the crew work different shifts? So what does shifts kind of look like? What are the shifts going on?
So each department's a little bit different. For the most part, it is about an 8:30 or 8 to 4:30 shift. We do have post-harvest starts 7:50 to 4:20. They wanted to be a little bit different, so they shifted their start time a little bit. So they're 7:50 to 4:20 post-harvest. Cultivation's about 8:30 to 4:30, 8:30 to 5. Some people come in earlier than that. It really depends on the day. If we've got a really big harvest coming up, we might start at 6 a.m. And we might leave at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, just depending on how long it's going to take us to get everything done. But most departments, are a normal 8-hour shift. Most days are a normal 8-hour shift. I would say roughly about 8:30 to 5, 8 to 4:30. We don't have split shifts yet, but as we look to expand and as we look to increase our yields, as we look to kind of do a couple of different things in the building, most likely at some point we will have to have first and second shift.
Awesome. All right. I don't see anything else in the chat. None on the other hand. So yeah, let's keep moving down. Let's keep moving down the road. Appreciate that, Tyler. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So Edgar, you should be teed up. You should be good to go. All right.
Hi guys, my name is Edgar Candelas, lab director for Certified. My background is in ag. I went to the University of Nevada, Reno for a degree in agriculture to really understand, plant growth. Growing had always been a hobby to me, and Nevada went medical before Ohio did, and that's where I started my career. I've also worked in California. I've worked in startup labs and cultivations in Colorado, Oklahoma, and obviously Ohio, which is definitely my favorite. I really like the environment here, the people, and so I basically started growing in the cultivation a little over 10 years ago in Nevada, and just organically progressed my development and in the industry, and got really interested in the lab. So the company I was working for, it was a medical company. They're all doctors, and when they got their license for for the production, I was very interested and basically took on a lab tech position there. And from there on, just really organically progressed into a manager and then director. And that's basically where I've been for the past, I would say 5 or 6 years, is in the director position, building out labs for extracting, for processing, for CBD, THC. I've also been lucky enough to receive some recognition for my work. In Nevada, there's a lot of cups, and in California, there's a lot of cups, and there's a lot of competitions, more of like the rec style, which is obviously where this is heading. And won first place Jack Hair Cup in 2019 for a topical product. And just recently was featured on Cannabis Times magazine, talking about basically how to innovate the lab and how to make things more efficient. So that's just a little bit about me, and we'll hop into the next slide. We'll start to cover more of the operations of what happens in the lab. The lab usually breaks down into 2 major categories. The first one of it being the extraction side. That's step 1. We take the material and we extract the oils out of it via hydrocarbon, which is what we're currently using. And there's other methods. We're also doing rosin press, which is a mechanical separation with heat, and also an alcohol extraction for RSO. The lab is usually ran with, it's definitely slimmer than the cultivation, with technology just getting better every year. We're able to run our extractor with 2 techs. We don't do any remediation on our material, and that's something that we take pride on. It's something that we really like to show off our flower, and the cleanliness of our flower is basically, we don't have to do anything to fix our final goods coming out of that machine. One neat thing about our specific machine, which is the Lunatech, is it runs at sub-cool temperatures, below 70 degrees Celsius. That's for optimal terpene preservation. And basically, we like to keep the flavonoids, we like to keep all the good flavors with the extract. And yeah, it's definitely a very powerful tool in our inventory. Our rosin process involves 2 lab techs. It's a process that's a little bit more hands-on than our hydrocarbon extractor. With our rosin, we're separating material initially with water and ice. After that extraction, we dry sift material, we freeze dry it, and we dry sift it. That gets pressed into what you would see as a rosin. So yeah, the entire process does take several weeks. Sometimes it can take a month, just depending on how long that oil takes to reach the right consistency that we're looking for. Alcohol extraction is, we only use that for RSO. It's more of like RSO came out, over 20 years ago. Everybody knows about RSO, and something that our customers want to see on the menu all the time. So it's a full spectrum. It's a real, it's a broad spectrum. It has all the cannabinoids, it's chlorophylls. It's basically the clone into the flower, without doing any sort of refining at all. That kind of breaks into our next slide, which is more of the refining side of our extraction in our lab. We do a very simple refinement, which involves winterization and distillation. Those 2 things they're critical steps for our distillate, which goes into several different of our products. We have we have gummies, we have drinks, and then our our carts as well. All those require a distillate oil. So winterization involves homogenizing ethanol. We use a food grade ethanol made from grapeseed, and it's mixed into the oil, homogenized, and put into a cryo freezer that will separate the fat layer of the oil and leave us with cleaner oil, more potent oil. The fat doesn't actually do anything good for us, so we get rid of that. After the oil is separated from the fat, we want to separate the ethanol to repurpose that. That's the roto evaporation step. It's roto is short for rotary. It's a ball that spins on a heat bath and evaporates the ethanol at a low temperature. It's under a vacuum. So we recover that ethanol, we repurpose that, and the oil that's and goes into the distillation. And that's the picture on the bottom that you see right there. So basically right there, we're fractionating oil based on vapor temperature and pressure. And we're able to achieve oils testing as high as 90% THC with just having really clean material to start with, real good material. So that's the distillation process. Diamond mining is a whole different type of product line, and that involves a reactor that's under pressure, and those are your diamonds in sauce. So that's a product that more of on the rec side. We'll start to see a lot more of those kinds of products. Basically, anything with isolates, anything testing THC. Diamonds are coming out testing 99% THC, and so that's obviously not in the 70% range that we currently have, but soon to come, those things will be changing, and we'll see a lot more products coming out. The formulations is also part of, it's like basically the last step. Once we have the oil made and we know what we want to make, those two things get formulated on a spreadsheet, and we have a recipe for what we're trying to make. And it's usually a vape card or an edible, a gummy, tincture. Everything requires these formulas. And yeah, that's basically the post-processing steps. On here, oops, we got some operations, kind of like high level. Let's see where the different products break out into. Our distillate breaks out into vape carts and edibles. Our live resin, so things coming out of our diamond miner. Any live resin products is kind of its own category, because that doesn't go through any winterizing, doesn't go through any roto-vapping. These are things that just come out of the extractor, come out of the diamond miner, and basically go into a product after some purging. RSO is oil for oral consumption. That's our final product as well, and rosin. The organization chart is, as you can see, is pretty small. Currently, we're hoping to expand this 150%, but currently it's me, the lab director. We have an extraction lead. The extraction lead will basically manage the day-to-day operations, and I'm more involved in new product formulations and overall oversight on the entire lab operation. So the lab techs, we have 2 lab techs, and these are positions that these are the starting positions. A typical day for a lab tech can be literally from loading biomass into an extractor, a lot of cleaning glass, machine cleaning. Basically, it's a wide range of things that the lab tech will do. It's a very it's one of those jobs where you're on your feet all day. Either cleaning something or or loading some biomass into a machine or a sock. A lot of these machines will run all day. So that's, the lab techs are also kind of on top of making sure that the machines are on and working properly. Our kitchen operation, which is a product that we use when we make out of our distillate. We currently make two things. We make our gummies. We have 9 different flavors, and then we make our drinks, which are 4 different flavors. The kitchen department is also rather slim, with a kitchen director, a kitchen lead, and 7 techs. And on these pictures, you can see a lot of the tech job here. You have the techs will be the ones who weigh out the initial ingredients, corn syrup, flavor. It's all natural ingredients, and they will essentially heat these ingredients up and load them into a mold. The molds will deposit these manually, and those sit overnight, and then they get demolded and sugar coated. So it is a pretty, it takes a few days to get a batch completed. We do 20,000 pieces a day, just to give you guys an idea of the production, and we're expected to over double this in the next 3 to 4 months. So these numbers here, we're expecting these numbers to double. And now we're going to open this up to any questions for lab or anything I might have not covered.
So you did say the ROS, and one thing that I've definitely learned is that a lot of people don't know. So it'd be good to get a deeper understanding of RSO, the Rick Simpson oil, what that is, what that came from, and because most general users, medical or not, won't interact normally a lot with that product due to the fact the potency of that product. If you could give a little bit more in depth on the RSO product.
Absolutely. So everybody is, depending on your familiarity with the market, I want to say that most people have at least heard of what RSO is, and really, it's the first cannabis oil to that people heard about, curing cancer, and people taking it for a lot of different terminal diseases. It's something that people are really comfortable with, but as far as what it is, it's really the closest concentrate that you have to the flower. And you can't, when people are taking RSO because they have a terminal disease or they have pain, they can't consume that much flower to be able to get the medical benefits that they are seeking. So that's where RSO really came in, to take 1,000 milligrams of THC in a way where it's not going to hurt if someone has a breathing problems, and they can't vaporize it, or if people just need to tolerate something a little bit more potent because they are in so much pain, then that's really where RSO came in, is the ability to really take the profile of the flower, the levels of THC, CBD, all these natural things that are in there, extract all of it, and be able to consume that in a way where it's easily done, which is orally ingested. And you're looking at a pretty wide array of cannabinoids. Alcohol naturally is a very non-selective extracting solvent. It will get everything out, which is the very opposite of a hydrocarbon. And a hydrocarbon is called it's a selective solvent. Its temperature, its polarity is very specifically guided at extracting THC. So that's why we have a alcohol extracting unit where we're able to do a whole different type of product, and it's the most full spectrum oil that you can get at this point. and most people are comfortable knowing that it's coming from alcohol, something that's organic, and just people are more comfortable knowing that their oil is coming from something sourced like that rather than something else. Yeah, it's a good question.
No, awesome. I appreciate that. Never really hear that correlation, but of the reason of not being able to ingest enough plant material technically, and obviously the other ways, if you have other issues, combusting and inhaling it wouldn't be conducive to the health. So I appreciate that insight. Just check here. Do you use specific cultivars for RSO?
Not at the moment. We basically like to have a sativa, indica, and a hybrid. Ideally that's what's kind of requested. But just kind of going back to the wide array of cannabinoids in my personal experience, not consuming it, but just being on the other side, is a combination of strains is the best for people who are seeking that full spectrum effects, or full spectrum is having a lot of different things combined into the oil.
So you said a combination of sativa, hybrid, and indica. So if there's a hybrid in there, why do you still need the isolation of those other dominant type plants or dominant plants and stuff?
No, I think it's not like necessarily needed, but it's not going to negatively affect anything with the oil. It's more of just trying to achieve a wider range of cannabinoids, and not even within the same genotype, even within hybrids, you will see different levels of CBN, CBGs, and CBCs. A genotype really is something you can almost just visually see. There's definitely differences between a hybrid and a sativa, and you have the happy in between. But even within those same genotypes, there is variation on the cannabinoids, and that's only with the stuff that we're testing. Currently, we're not testing for a lot of other cannabinoids that are part of that. I hope that answers your question.
All right, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. Let me just jump through here. See, what type of testing is done to determine the primary and secondary terpenes in new strains / cultivars?
Are you speaking on the flower?
Yeah, why don't we go through yeah, definitely flower, but I think it'd be good to maybe touch on both sides and how terpenes might show up and are engaging, especially something like an edible. But definitely let's start flower first, because I think that's the most direct in the sense of that experience for the user.
Yeah, well, I'll let Tyler speak on the flower side of things, but as far as in the lab, our testing facility only tests for the top, I believe it's the top 20 most prevalent terpenes. So they have a list of what is the most what do we normally see on all these flowers, and that's what they're testing for. As far as what makes it to the lab for extraction, that just kind of depends on customers and what we're getting, what the feedback is from our cultivars. But we definitely have a process for figuring out what we're going to be growing in our facility, and we can turn that back around to Tyler.
When we're talking, specific kinds of testing for terpene results, I'm not really that familiar with the lab, to be honest. That would be more like, we work with North Coast labs or different labs in the state. Not really exactly sure how they go about getting the terpene results. I'm going to say at some point, some form of test that's boiling off the terpenes at different degrees, and it allows you to kind of collect some of that and decide how much of a percentage of each terpene is what. But to be honest, I can't really speak to what kind of testing or how they go about getting the terpene results.
Do you all do any in-house testing before it goes out to the lab?
Not
No.
currently.
So, and just to follow up was the curiosity was really about trying to figure out, how to learn the type of terpenes that are actually in the plant. But as you said, that's really all done at the lab. And obviously, how does that show up on the label in itself? So the testing itself, can you give some information around that for the user to when they're, looking at their products and how to determine and see what the terpene profiles are and what are some of the top ones?
Yeah, generally for our flower, we're seeing a lot of myrcene, a lot of limonene, a little bit of caryophyllene. I know our Florida Sunrise got kind of a rare terpene in it. You don't see a lot as osmine. Yeah, really, those are kind of the top 4 or 5 that I see a lot. Generally, they come back in milligrams. So we're getting a specific terpene, if it's limonene, it might come back as 800 milligrams or 700 milligrams. And then you're breaking it down to what that percentage of terpene is. So, like the highest terpene result that I've ever seen here was a 5.64% terp result. And that was a combination of, I would say probably 15 different terpenes, 15 to 20 terpenes, but your dominant, 2.5% to 3%, up to maybe 4% are really coming in your top 4 to 5 terpenes. So, in that case, it was, I think myrcene was a high, like 1.74%. Below that would have been probably the limonene at like a 1% or a 0.8%. But yeah, generally how it breaks down, and those are generally kind of the top terpenes that we're seeing right now is myrcene, limonene, caryophyllene. Sometimes we see osmine, we see a little bit of linalool. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Awesome, appreciate it. Any other questions on this area? Not, we'll keep things going. Oh, chat says thank you. All right. Let's keep flowing. Appreciate that, Edgar.
Hey guys, Angie Hamilton. I am the current director of sales for Certified Cultivators. As Kevin mentioned earlier, I kind of had an interesting road getting here. I did start in a dispensary like Tyler as a key employee. Within a few months was actually promoted to general manager at that location. Just had some things shift around really quickly. I did have a pretty extensive background. I came from mental health initially, did some business to business sale, had some retail experience, worked in a pharmacy, but was able to grow with that dispensary really rapidly. I think I was in that role for roughly a year, maybe 2 years, a year and a half or so. And then I rolled into a retail ops role in procurement. So I was managing 4 dispensaries within the state and also working with a 5th dispensary that we were acquiring and did all the procurement as well. So I got to purchase all the products that went out to the stores, which kind of led me here. When I was a general manager, I met with Zach. He used to come to the store frequently and just bombard me with questions for retail. He was just getting cultivation going. I got to come over here and, meet the very small team they had. And then we were partners. So we purchased their products, put them on our shelves, and got to watch them grow. So that's kind of what led me here last year. When Brendan moved over to director of production, I stepped into the director of sales role here, and now currently work with our marketing team pretty closely. We've got a marketing manager there and a graphic designer. They do all of our in-house graphics. That's really cool. So they do all the packaging, all of our menu assets, online assets. I love those guys. They're great. And then I also work really closely with accounting, accounts payable, receivable, and then logistics as well. So that kind of encompasses something Brendan will talk about a little bit later on, but that's our delivery team and order fulfillment. And then we do have somebody that reaches out to all of the contacts to get those deliveries scheduled. And currently, I think we're running anywhere between 45 and 50 deliveries a week, which is pretty awesome. So that's kind of high level where I'm at. I'm the liaison between what we're doing here in production and getting those products out into the market, into the dispensary shelves, and then in the hands of the patients. So, kind of working some relationships, building trust with organizations, just a lot of strategy and just working with our partners. I think there's roughly 100 dispensaries online now. We expect another 23 in the next 2 months. And that's going to blow up coming into the next year as rec comes to Ohio. So that's going to kind of lead me into dispensary operations. Just high level, the 4 Ps, if we focus on that, the people in the organization, just a well-oiled machine in a dispensary. It takes a little while once you open those doors and get going, but there's so many roles available. It starts at the general manager, who works usually under an area manager and, some higher level management, but typically you see 1 to 2 assistant managers under that GM role. And then you'll have back of house operations, which is usually a key holder inventory manager. Sometimes that's 2 people. They handle loading all the menus, getting all the inventory on the shelves, getting those tagged and ready to sell. And then you've got front of house. So they kind of are the leadership team for the dispensary agents, kind of a touch point for front of house and intake, handle a lot of the customer concerns, things like that. And then your dispensary agents, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Sometimes you'll see 6, 10 to 15 dispensary agents at each dispensary. It just depends on the volume. And then you have 1 or 2 intake people that cover that, and security as needed. So that's kind of the people that run that. And some of these stores are seeing 400 or 500 patients a day. It's a great place to get your foot in the door and just really learn about what people want, what's selling on the shelves. Kind of sets you up really well to be successful in cultivation if that's where you want to go. Knowing what the patients want is really important. So we'll go into products a little bit. I've learned a lot more about products being on the cultivation production side. But I know as far as dispensary operations are concerned, keeping that menu well saturated is really, really important. You have a good, better, best option. So a lot of us know it, you have your mids and you have your craft and premium. Maintaining a balance of each of those items is really, really important. Adequate levels, never selling out of your top strains. Letting leadership know that we've got to get more of this in-house, selling really quickly. That's really important. So then we'll go into pricing. We used to joke all the time in the dispensary, we stacked it deep, sell it cheap. That really is just to get the best possible pricing. As you go deeper into those products, you build relationships with your vendors. So people like us at Certified, gaining some shelf space and getting a lot more products in the door at a better value, and then you're able to offer that to the patient, and that patient's going to come back every time. And as I mentioned above in products, offering products that cover mid value and craft. And then patient facing. So those are your dispensary agents, your keys. It really is the most important part of dispensary operations and maybe the most challenging. We were told all the time that we were doing the Lord's work, but people are just really happy to be there to be able to purchase. And if you listen to them, you're going to have them forever. And gaining that level of understanding really worked me into the role that I'm in now. I still use that same philosophy when I'm talking to my partners and building those accounts, and just the strategy that goes into it. So I've spent a lot of time working with, our leadership team and Brendan and Tyler and everybody in-house here at Cultivation, just really pushing Certified as far as we can push them. And the dispensary is such an important contribution. Without them, it really doesn't make any sense. We're not able to move our products directly to the consumer. So having those relationships at the dispensary level is really important. But that's kind of where I'm at. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd love to hear them. We do have an in-house marketing team. We currently have 2 folks that kind of head that up, and they have some people under them that work with graphic design, but I do have a marketing manager and I've got a graphic designer. So all of the strains that you see out in the market, they've designed all of those graphics. Everything you see on the menus when you're looking at a dispensary menu, they're putting that together, providing all the information for the labels. It's pretty awesome.
And that team does a really, really great job. Some of the best branding. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Quick second. Grab some water. With all the regulations in the industry, where would you or do you focus your sales and marketing efforts?
It is complicated in Ohio. We kind of work with the Department of Commerce that tells us, you know, what we can do as far as what we're putting out there. It's not like we can do radio plugs or television ads, but our brand ambassadors, who I would kind of classify under sales and marketing at the same time, they are hitting every single dispensary in the state, talking to every patient that comes up. So they really are our frontline marketing. So just as many touch points as we can. Our CEO is out pounding the pavement, shaking hands with dispensary agents, with managers. I would say that our biggest play at marketing is going to be with the dispensary agents. Just getting in front of them, educating them on our products, and just so the patients know who we are. That's who sell our product.
100%. Is there from, you know, and anyone can answer this, industry guidelines / range around salaries in these positions? And I think we kind of touched on that a little bit more, a little bit earlier. But anyone else can jump in on that. And then what we've seen, right? You have entry level positions that are going to start into the mid to high teens. And then obviously as these positions grow, they're going to, you know, go into some, because how many of you all are on salary? How many are on salary? How's that kind of range as you guys have evolved into your positions now? Because I know most of you all in leadership roles now.
I can kind of jump into some of those areas. You know, if you're talking about a dispensary, typically your general manager is going to be a salaried position. The rest is going to be hourly. Here on the cultivation side, we do a lot of our sales and marketing team are salaried individuals working well outside of business hours, and just when we're needed. And I'll let Tyler and kind of go through what that looks like for cultivation.
Yeah, for cultivation, salary members, I think we have 6, I believe, total. And then everybody else underneath that would be hourly, ranging anywhere from, like you said, mid-teens to mid-20s, until you get into salary, and then you start to go up a little bit from there.
Angie, I have a question for you, Angie. In itself, on all the parts that you've seen so far, what do you think excites you most about the next step, you know, in our industry growth and the opportunity as we go, you know, adult use?
Besides the fact that it's going to open up, I mean, you know, they were talking just in our facility alone, we're looking at 150% to 175% increase. And, you know, just the number of jobs in the environment that are going to become available, and kind of how quickly you can grow in those positions. But the number of patients, you know, like right now we're a pretty limited market. We have 11 million people that live in the state of Ohio, and 175,000 people are currently purchasing. Even if we could get to 10% of the population, that's wild to me, the level of production that you're going to see ramping up. So, you know, up to 1 million people, maybe even more than that purchasing, that opens up so many doors for so many people.
100%. Someone's asking about career opportunities. Sales is something they would like to be in, and what are some of the, you know, career pathways / educational pathways you suggest? I know everyone's had a couple different pathways. Some of you have been through traditional and also clinical school cannabis, and then obviously just building yourself as well. What advice do you have for individuals?
If you're interested in sales, definitely dispensary is not a bad idea. You learn how to talk to people, learn how to talk about the products, learn a lot about the products. But there's also a plethora of roles available as a brand ambassador, which I mentioned previously. These people they're traveling all over. They're setting up at dispensaries, getting to know how to kind of do some lower level account management. And that's setting you onto a trajectory where you're going to grow into those, more formal account manager roles, or into a, maybe a area manager for sales or a certain market sales. So it's definitely a good start. Either pathway works. There are some other positions I see posted for marijuana, and it is starting as an account manager. It's a lot of cold calling and being comfortable talking about the products. If you love them, it's really easy. It's really easy to talk about it. So never too low, starting as an agent's never a bad idea. It gets you in front of the people that are making decisions.
What's a good first step in becoming a brand ambassador?
Get yourself out in front of people. About every cultivator processor has a website. Getting your resume out in front of there. Like I said, being in a dispensary, you never know who's walking through the door. Like we shop at a local dispensary close to our cultivation. So you're seeing people coming in, you're seeing the owners, the managers, the decision makers. So talking to everybody, introducing yourself, getting your name out there. I see them posted all the time on Indeed, but it's a great place to start.
Is there any internships available?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of places will create those for the right person. So I know that I think Cleveland School of Cannabis actually places some people in some internships, but I know I did previously in the dispensary bring in some interns that were in current medical marijuana programs.
Yeah, so that's something that we love doing at CC. One is the biggest thing with our program is not just the education and the level of quality education. It's really the industry partnerships and connections. So we facilitated internship programs with licensees across the state, but also our job placement assistants. So being able to work directly with our career services department is always has been our mission at Cleveland School of Cannabis, to develop the next workforce for the industry. And a big part of that is working with our students and our alumni to get them placed and moved and connected in the industry. But I think Andy gives a great understanding of the upward mobility. This is something we talk about a lot, right? Where, in this industry, because, and I think Tyler said it earlier, is that everyone is pretty much a startup. So whether you are the largest organization or you have just opened your doors today, you're still in startup mode. As Angie just articulated, right? We have about 180,000 patients actually actively buying in the stores, right? There's about 350,000 registered patients, but only half of those individuals are actively buying. So just a 10% increase changes the game. So now when we think about what's going to happen in the recreational market, when this now opens up, for me, all I say is now every condition is a qualifying condition, not just what the legislators believe is a qualified condition to use cannabis. Now you start to see some of the roadblocks that has been with Ohioans specifically being able to get access to the cannabis that they want. The numbers, the votes, all of that is shown that Ohioans want to be able to get access to quality, tested cannabis that they can trust in itself. And this will just continue to open up those marketplaces and those opportunities. So someplace even starting at the dispensary dispensary, again, as she talked about, what I think was a great analogy, and I use that you get in front of a lot of people. You get to understand the customers, what's driving customers and consumer behavior, which is very, very important to what Tyler and Edgar and their team does, is to say they need to drive products and develop products to what consumers want. It becomes very consumer driven and not what you like, right? Because I always say myself, one cultivar that I miss the most is Purple Haze, but it doesn't yield a lot. In itself, the haze, Gino doesn't yield a lot, so it's not great in the sense of when you think about production wise. So you don't see that a lot on the marketplace, right? But that's a personal thing compared to what you're going to see and what consumers are driving and what makes business sense as well. So we always talk about upward mobility and thinking about what 1 to 3, 1 to 5 years looks like for you, and comparing that to other industries. So where can you go get education, get in an industry, and then within 5 years, what is your upward mobility and availability? And when you're in new industries, it's always growing because we're nowhere close to what the market cap is going to be yet. And we're not even going to see that for the next decade. There's still a lot of growth within Ohio, but truthfully, there's still a lot of growth within the United States. And as this thing continues to go globally, we're still at the very, very early stages of that. So I do want to open up to any other questions. I don't see anything else in the chat. Don't see any raised hands. So I think, I'm not sure if Brendan is capstoning us off here, kind of wrapping us all up, and then we'll go into some closeouts. But Angie, appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, my name is Brendan Bauman. Born and raised Clintonville, Columbus, Ohio. Early on in my journey, I mean, before medical cannabis, I was doing banquet bartending at the Hilton downtown Columbus. In the background, I was cultivating for around over a decade, specifically a lot of the more local legacy strains that Columbus had, Death Star, phenotype of that, which was the Lydium, GJ Short, Blueberry OG, and Maui Wowie, just to name a couple. A big part of my journey was actually finding the Cleveland School of Cannabis. I knew I had this skill set. I didn't really know how to showcase that I had it. I didn't know how to get my foot in the door. My dad knew my passion for cannabis and for helping people through the medicinal plant itself. And he saw a billboard one day and said, "Hey, Brendan, you should enroll to Cleveland School of Cannabis and get a degree." And so I did. I went for the executive program in dispensary ops and cultivation. During my time there, Scott, who is our chief operating of compliance here at Certified, was actually a guest speaker, which is something they regularly had on Fridays. And I had actually just met Zach the week before at a friend's wedding, who is our owner operator, our CEO here. And so within a couple consecutive weeks with the platform that Cleveland School of Cannabis gave me, I was able to meet the owner and then also the chief operating, a couple of the owners here, honestly. Scott won the actual license for Certified, and I introduced myself, and that was the start of my journey for the next 3 years here at Certified. When I was hired on, I was around number 7, and we're already at over 100 people, roughly around 100 right now. And that's just in this medical field of, again, only around 175,000 patients here. So you can see where it's heading and where it's going. In just 3 years, we upped our employees times 10. Yeah, so my journey, I'll just run through real quick, but it's been a wild 3 years. It's been startup mode, and now I feel like it's finally we got every piece in place. We got the best director team and team around, best upper management I could ever ask for. But so I started off as the flower manager. I was hired on when there was only a team of 5 of us. Once we passed a couple of the production rooms, I was kind of skirted out of the facility, and I started putting my brand ambassador sales hat on. In those times, it was very much kissing babies, knocking on doors, feeding every dispensary, trying to make as many friends as you possibly could, because no one really heard of us. We were only producing 3 different carts at the time. We had a sativa indica and a hybrid cart. think I forget, there was like a grape, a Jack Herrera, and one other, but we really played those out. They're in a push-up pop format. Those days were special. But we did our first, when we finally passed our first test and we sold some cannabis out there in the field, it all went to Strawberry Fields, more or less. Strawberry Fields was a subsidiary of Columbia Care. Columbia Care bought out Strawberry Fields eventually. So I quickly grew from there because we were such a startup. I eventually became the director of sales after I became the brand ambassador and kind of just sales lead there. I became the director of sales. I was responsible for getting us into 51 of the 56 dispensaries and managing 51 dispensaries of sales. We were selling out of all of our products at that time. Our production wasn't really up to scale. We were short-staffed in pretty much every area. So yeah, it was exciting to get us in and to pass that torch on to Angie, who's now managing more like 100 dispensaries. So we've more than doubled that canvas in a short amount of time. Yeah, and then after the director of sales, I think I passed that torch around October 2022. So I've been in this director of production role for a little under a year now, which requires me back in the building and pretty much just have a high level communication with all the directors, making sure Angie's fully stocked on her menu, making sure we're putting out the best fire that sells the best with, Tyler and his group, and working with Edgar and making sure we have enough fire SKUs of botanicals, making sure we have enough concentrates on her menu, and making sure that it's what the people want, what the patients want, medicinally speaking. So yeah, it's a quick rundown of my journey and a quick little synopsis of the last 3 years, and we'll go on to the next slide here. So yeah, I'm going to talk about, I guess, a lot of the unseen stuff, a lot of things that really make this make certified run and operate smoothly, and just some of the categories I feel like are just kind of not talked about. They're not the glamorous, creating the strains, growing the weed, making the products, but it's really what makes this facility run. So yeah, we'll move into this kind of order fulfillment and some of the other departments that I directly oversee. So production, again, my responsibility is kind of working with each director, maintaining high levels of communication. And then I also handle flower pack, order fulfillment, deliveries. I'll touch base on just kind of like some other things like ERP, compliance, and our upper management as we keep moving forward. So cart filling, once Edgar has all of our solutions and they've passed testing and they've gotten that 70% variance, they move on to cart filling. Currently, we only have one individual who's responsible for all of our cart filling in-house. She max capacity can do around 2,000 carts a day. We have a Thompson Duke model, foot pedal model that she utilizes. And she does everything from our 510 botanical carts, C-cell carts, to live resin, lesser pod filling, 1 gram, 840s, half grams. She does it all. She's a rock star. But in the future, definitely gonna have to add on to these categories. Again, we're talking there's 175,000 people in this thing. We're looking at a couple million here shortly. So you can do the math. We'll need at least another couple people to join that group here shortly. Flower pack. You see Colt and Joey there. They're two of our main flower pack individuals. Colt with the peace sign up is actually our flower pack manager. He oversees flower pack and finished goods. We roughly have four to five people that will be managing the flower pack room on a given day. Again, max capacity for flower jars, we can do about 3,000. We utilize automation in this room. We have an automation unit that uses vibrations. It carries the flower down into a scaling system with 14 different chambers. It makes a combination. You just dial it into the actual computer itself, and it'll come out with a 283, a little over every single time. Or if you need a 14.15, you can program it that way, and we'll use 2 chambers to create that number specifically. But it's pretty amazing what the automation can do. It can pack, it can weigh, it puts the lid on for you, and then it also puts the compliance sticker around the jar itself. So we can be lean in that room, but then we do in the background have people hand weigh large size buds that can't actually move through the machinery itself. And then just in the background, there's only so much the machine can do. So we have people hand weighing at all given times. So, and again, this is an area that's going to increase probably double here shortly. Order fulfillment. So order fulfillment is a piece where once it's through finished goods and packaged and everything's packaged, the order fulfillment team is making sure that everything is QC'd and compliant and on a route. It's on a, they make sure it's ready for the delivery, basically. So there's a lot of different roles in order fulfillment. We have a systems coordinator. System coordinator role is to basically make sure like the manifest and everything is compliant. He also manages the drivers when they're out on their routes. So he's the focal point for if anything goes awry. Let's say a metric tag was lost in one of our packages out at a delivery. We make sure to have extra metric tags in the delivery vans themselves nowadays. He can coordinate with our ERP team and we can get that, solve that problem on the fly instead of getting rejection at the dispensary end. So it's a really important position. Order fulfillment lead. He's basically running the team. It's a hustle bustle atmosphere in order fulfillment. Things change quickly. We work directly with the logistics team, with Angie, and with Angie, because she's out there making the sales happen. Once the sales happen, it runs through our logistics team, Natalie, and then she'll put it on the delivery schedule. And if it's on the delivery schedule for the next day, order fulfillment's getting that order ready, and it will be ready in that next morning. Right now, we do roughly anywhere from 10 to 14 orders daily. So putting together around 4 routes a day, and in those 4 routes, usually 3 to 4 different dispensaries per route are hit each day. We have 4 vans going. I'll hit deliveries here in a second. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But order fulfillment techs, they're organizing all the delivery or all the orders again inside the room. So we have a single vault where all of our finished products are stored. They're going in and out of that vault, checking metric tags and source package numbers, making sure they're getting that product from the right source, making sure that that source is then counted, QC'd in terms of like expiration dates, variants on THC, make sure it's the right product in general. So they go through a lot of QCing in this room. It is kind of the final QC before it's out the door into our dispensaries. And we pride ourselves on not making a mistake in this room. We have a great system and process and a great team. And it's a hustle bustle. You're on your feet a lot. Again, your hourly wages, again, I think are mid-teens and up to the mid-20s, just depending on how long you've been there and how fast you rose the ranks. And then, logistics lead, like I said, works really closely with Angie and myself. She's the mediator between the two.
So I got a question. What departments or positions in itself exist within the organization that you think most people, or you didn't even know existed there until you started kind of moving through the ranks and the operations?
There's so many. I mean, we have an ERP team, which handles like the unseen aspects pretty much of the facility. Again, I think order fulfillment is a place.
What does it stand for? What's ERP? Break it down for us a little bit. What does that mean?
What is ERP?
See, there you go. All right.
Fuck, I can't even remember. Hey, Angie, Tyler, Edgar, that's good. What's ERP again stand for? Nobody.
Enterprise resource planning.
See, I knew Tyler knew.
It basically takes every bit of the data that we collect, goes through that source, It generates our invoices, it generates our costing. It tells us how much production we've had, how much we've put through. It was built for certified cultivators specifically. So it's giving us data back when we're putting the data in.
It's also how we input a lot of our metric moves. We put everything in through the ERP system, and then the ERP will then finalize it or push it to metric. So, whether that's harvest data, whether that's final trim numbers between big lots, small lots, shake trim. Yeah, a lot of pieces like that. They're our final piece of compliance to make sure that all our data and all our our data points add up, make sure that we're not missing anything, we're not over or under on any counts or kind of what we're predicting. So, if we say a plant weighs 2 pounds wet weight and that's getting reported at the time of harvest, we're also going to record the amount of flour that comes off this lot of flour when it's trimmed, dried, and getting ready to be packaged. So ERP will kind of finalize a lot of that data and a lot of the products for us to go out for deliveries.
Yeah, and in my world, they're kind of the connecting piece in between sales and inventory. So they're always making sure that our inventory numbers reflect what's on LeafLink, which is our sales operating system. If those two numbers are off, that leads to a lot of errors in my order fulfillment and in sales area in general. So we do weekly audits to make sure that our products are in line. And we talk with the ERP team about, we make sure that both are talking and are matching on both the LeafLink sales end and on our inventory sheet end. Also ERP, they manage, audit, and support perpetual inventory systems. They build out systems, configurations, or process enhancements. They create and manifest all sales orders and give them to order fulfillment team. They make sure ERP systems are compliant in both license and production. They support and troubleshoot all system errors, mistakes by users. They create room maps displaying all information inside a grow room for every flower room. They associate the costing with all processed and inventory practices throughout the company and direct that data forecast for future production from the ERP. So there's a lot going on that they manage from a day-to-day standpoint, and it's a director and a manager pretty much, and then our CFO. So those three manage all of that on a daily basis.
Awesome. So it sounds like that's a pretty cool team. So they're like they're a data mining, data management team. So gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah, a little bit of everything in the background, keeping us compliant, making sure everything's in line.
Awesome. Just check here, see if there are any questions. So I'm seeing you raise hands, and nothing here. So we are at the 1:30 mark and making great time. So first I want to just thank the CC team, certified team, for joining us today for this seminar. Truthfully, at the end of the day, the main goal for us here at CSC, as I said earlier, is to help educate and develop the workforce of the future for the cannabis industry by providing quality education. And we know that it is a combination of things that come together to create, some of the successes that you see from the individuals that are on this call, which is a combination of, alumni and from other areas, which you'll always see in all markets. But really the first thing is believing in yourself and really taking a chance on yourself, and then starting to build up the skill sets, the relationships that you need to go ahead and be successful to meet that goal. I love what Angie talked about, upskilling yourself, being able to talk to people, gaining that skill set and being able to do outreach, because, sales outreach, things of that sort, that's a lot of connecting, that's a lot of relationships, and that's a lot of bouncing back from things not maybe going out exactly how you planned, right? Being able to go ahead, not only in the leadership roles that Edgar, Brennan, and Tyler are rowing in the sense of their technical job, but also how do they go ahead and get their team engaged, right, into the process to buy into this as well, right? As great as they are into their technical aspects, is as great as they are to be able to go ahead and get other team members to be on board, to buy into the culture, to give a full effort. Brendan said itself, cannabis, because it's been kept away from us, it is this kind of sexy thing in the corner that we all kind of want to get our hands on and be able to be around. And sometimes we are not fully understanding the realities of what it is to be in this field, right? There's a lot of pluses, there's a lot of great moments, and there's still a lot of dedication and hard work, to the process on the mind and the body and the commitment that you have to this, right? So as you all are thinking about and starting to do the math and analyze about where you are right now, where you want to be, starting to put together kind of that package and what's going to get you there. That's going to be the most important for yourself, right? What's that commitment, believing in yourself, and then finding the tools, the support, the resources to help get you to that journey that you want to accomplish. The great thing that we can see and that we know, and that this is more than 10 reasons why we picked Certified to work with them with the seminar. A ton of different things. We have a great partnership with them, and a ton of things that we do. We'll send some things out and follow up emails. We have a awesome VR 360 tour of their facility and their team. So as we talked about, most people never get a chance to see the inside of these facilities. So I'll send that in our follow-up email, so you get the chance. You can do that right on your phone, right on your computer, and get to see a little bit of what's going on and some of the things that they've talked about today. Is really thinking about the opportunity that Ohio has in front of you right now. All of these individuals are what you call early adopters. There was early in the industry, still not validated technically. Our governor statement is, it's not your grandfather's weed, and we completely agree. It's not. It's better, and that's what we should be having in our world, is advancements. It's better in many, many different ways. So with that being said, these individuals are early adopters, and it could someone feel like, hey, did I miss the wave? Did I miss the early opportunities and growth? No. And that's uniquely positioned because we are still within technically a suppression of the industry, right? And adult use is the next step. So yes, we did do some good work, Ohio, in the last couple months of getting this thing on the ballot. We have to finish the job in the sense of November, to making sure this thing move forward. And it is not about how they are positioning cannabis. I would say it's not how the naysayers are positioning cannabis in a sense of the negative things that can happen. We as adults have to constantly and every day work hard to making sure that we are doing things right, that we are protecting our kids, that we are educating every adult and our youth in the sense of what cannabis is, being smart about our use, being smart about our storage, being smart about the things that we do, and all the other things that we have to control. So the Advil that you have to put away a certain way, to the prescription drugs that you have to put a certain way, to the alcohol that's in your home that you have to put a certain way, to the other things that you do to making sure that we keep safe not only our kids, but go ahead and create a society that everybody has the opportunity to be successful and safe, is the things that we're going to continue to do. And cannabis will just be another tool and another thing within our society that truthfully the other 24 recreational states have proven that, and they've seen the benefits as they've continued to, one, I always say, treat cannabis with respect and start to hold it at a higher level. We start to see the full benefits of it. And that's what we're coming out of. So even though our industry in itself is 5 years old in Ohio, maybe a little bit less because it wasn't until like 2018 we started selling cannabis. And it's also, that's still 5 years. 2018 we're selling cannabis. The years are moving fast. Those COVID years kind of blend, so you don't really feel it's like a full year or not. But 5 years in, we're still in the early adapter phase, and there's still great opportunity. And what we want all you to know, that the Cleveland School of Cannabis is your partner in, on this journey and getting there. So I do really want to thank you all for your time. Certified team, thank you as always. As we know, we'll be in contact very, very soon for the next things that we'll be working on together. And as everyone goes ahead and moves forward with their day, I hope that you've got a little bit more insight, a little bit more understanding. We've taken the veil off a bit more in a sense of what this industry is really about. So as individuals that I won't say are against cannabis, the individuals that are not educated about the plant, educated about the industry, as they're providing information, now you have a bit more information in your toolbox to go ahead and be able to provide them the information they need, so they're making better decisions, they're making better statements that are actually based on the facts of this industry as we move forward. So again, I want to thank you all for your time. Thank you for spending this Saturday with us. As I said, I'll be sending some, follow-up emails to everyone that was on this call, so you'll be able to get some tour information, some more information about the school. And obviously, please, if you are patients, please make sure that you go and find a dispensary that is holding certified products, because it is definitely some of the best in the industry. This team cares about what they're doing, and you see it obviously from the presentation today, and you're definitely going to see it in all the products that are on the shelves.
Thank you so much for having us, Kevin. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
you all.
you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.